The first time I remember meeting Dale was they had some kind of a fishing tournament on Lake Norman, and then they had an obstacle course where you raced boats. And my dad and Dale were partners, and I can't remember how it all worked out. I do know there was some cheating that went on. I know they won the obstacle course part, and I think it was pretty crazy, but cheating on the racing side, not really the fishing side, but
yeah,
it was good.
That's interesting too, because you talk about that lack of fear that your dad had. You sort of had that too, and you have that. And when you have that lack of fear falls over into any kind of fear somebody might have of skirting the rules or getting in trouble with the officials or the sanctioning body. And I know that one time I don't remember where we were. I don't even know if we were at a racetrack, but we were in your trailer.
Oh no!
Or I was in my trailer. We were in a gooseneck trailer at a racetrack, and there was bleeders involved, and I was talking about what I was doing with mine, and you were telling me some things that you did with the bleeders on your car that were impressive, and it made me really realize how innovative you were. Not only were you good at driving, this is probably back when you were racing an All-Pro car, and I don't know what you did to your Xfinity stuff when y'all ran your own team, but man, you were creative.
Well, whatever it was,
the Red Sox are trying to make it 3 in a row.
I mean, let's
Hi
talk
and
about
welcome,
that.
everybody. This is Dwayne Kuiper and Mike Krukow here for MVP Baseball.
Yeah.
And now, here's tonight's starting pitcher, Wade Miller.
In Kentucky, an All-Pro Series.
Let's check out the defense.
1997.
This matchup features the Atlanta Braves and the Boston Red Sox.
You're going to Nashville, all the big races, and doing great, running great and fast.
Here's the game's first batter, Rafael Furcal.
You go. And when we would talk racing, I knew you. I was like one of your biggest fans when it come to like your progression and hoping that you would get to where I wanted to go because we could be there together.
Yeah.
But I was really impressed with how your mind worked.
Well,
In terms of setups, engineering, taking a look, you weren't a race car driver. You didn't grow up in a racing family, but
That's
you
right.
could look at us, just you and your brother both. You ran, like your brother ran them barrel springs and stuff before
Right.
barrel springs were cool.
Yeah.
You know, and understanding how to travel a car and how to get more travel out of it, how to get it how to get it to set on the springs when you couldn't run bump stops. You guys looked at the front of those cars and would see ways to make it work the way you wanted it to work.
Well, so the credit I would give to that, and I think it's been a lifelong thing that's been helpful for me, is when your dad told my dad, your dad made a deal with me when we bought that car. He's like, hey, you can do whatever you want, but you won't wear an open face helmet. Okay. But he talked to my dad a lot, and he's like, hey, it's important. He gave my dad some instructions. It's like really important that Hank Jr. understands race car. And so my dad's like, hey, I'm not going to get you a crew chief. You're going to have to figure this out. But here's what I'll do. I'll help you find somebody that can mentor you. And so at the time, Freddie Query was the legend, at the racetrack. So I was at Freddie Query's house all the time. I wore that guy out. But he took me under his wing, and he taught me how to set cars up, how to hang bodies, Now, I'm not a very good fabricator. My brother is, but him and both Robbie Hampke. And so
unreal.
I would be at Hampke's race shop all the time and fixing my dad's cars, learning how to do that sort of stuff.
Tell me about Freddie. You guys, Matthew, everybody's
Query
glowing
and Hampke are like two massive names in super late model racing in the Mid-Atlantic region, North Carolina.
Just lost Robert Hampke.
Yeah. And you were basically right alongside these guys for years, and they tutored you into becoming the man you were as far as the mechanic
and the grit and trying to learn how to analyze and look at things. Now, Freddie Query, I would say this, and I'm sure a lot of people could argue this, but as far as people who never really got a shot to go after, I would say he's probably the best race car driver I've ever seen that never really got a shot. He started late in life.
A lot of people say that.
Man, that guy could drive.
Really?
And he's a driven dude. I mean, like, you don't play games around Freddie Query.
He was a school teacher.
Yeah. And so he just taught me. He just started teaching me all this stuff. And the first late model race I went to, you know who I went with? Gary Ballou.
No kidding.
Yes, I went with Gary Ballou. And no lie, it was at Greenville's Pickens Speedway. His son, Brian Ballou, and I were friends. We went to school. They had moved to our town, and we were pretty good friends. And I went to this race with him, and he's like, the only job you have to do is he had these big, syringes full of tire soak compound, and I was filling the inside of the tires and keeping them rolling until it was time to go.
The race wasn't in Cuba, was it?
No.
Okay, good.
It was at Greenville Pickens.
Ah, good.
So you put that solution in there, and you needed to keep the tire rolling, so the solution was going around the whole interior of the tire. So it soaked through one particular spot.
And he won the race.
He destroyed him, I bet.
Oh, yeah. He killed him. Now, you talk about learning how to cheat. It was awesome. I was like, this is so cool.
How did you even get linked up with Ballou?
His son and I were same age, and they lived right down the street. And
his story is fascinating.
Yeah, it's a very fascinating story.
He's got
and to be clear for people, I mean, obviously, we're talking about rules now, and there's a big difference between like golf and fishing and NASCAR in the 90s, 80s and 90s. It wasn't really cheating. It's just like it allowed for creativity. How far can you go and still fall inside the bounds, and where are they overlooking the rules? And I love that side of it because, man, what that made it made it like this really cool team effort where you've got guys that are creative and they're doing stuff to race cars you just never could think of and dream of on your own, and you're collaborating and building these fast race cars and learning every week. That was one of the things I really loved about it.
Yeah, in around 1999, 1998 too, but y'all had your own team. Mm-hmm. Number 53, the Bass car, B-A-S-S, one of the coolest cars out there. Had a big old fish on the side of it. Mm-hmm. Who was helping you with that car at that particular time?
All right, so I got to tell you a funny story about that car. So we showed up to Rockingham. We're just going to try to run a few races. We showed up to Rockingham, and all it said was BASS and had a picture of a fish on it. And Ward Burton comes on up. You got to love this.
Of course he does.
He says, "Son, where's all your stickers on your car?" I said, "This guy's crazy."
Keep talking like Ward. In fact, do the rest of this interview as your best Ward Burton person.
I wish I could. But I don't really remember back then. I think
you ran good. Like y'all had. This is your own car. You run this out of a shop near your home in Denver, North Carolina. Mm-hmm. You're not like the other teams, right?
Yeah.
It's a family-run operation. You run 6th at Rockingham in 1998, toward the end of the year there. In 1999, you didn't make the Daytona race, which was frustrating, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But then you go to South Boston in the middle of the season, you run 3rd.
Yeah.
You run I was holding you and Jeff Green up at the end of that race. Jeff should have punted me out of the way. But
I thought he was going to, and I thought I was sitting in the right spot.
You did. You run 3rd in 99 Homestead, one of my favorite memories racing with you. We both had great cars, and you led 32 laps of that race and ended up 4th. Y'all should have won that race, but I think you had some pit road issues.
Yeah, I can't remember all the details there, but we did have some pit road issues. But really, if you back up, I drove the Mark III car the year before and ended up getting injured at Texas and had to sit the rest of the year out. And then we started our own team, and Dave McCarty was the guy who was kind of at the helm there, and who was the crew chief over that car. Dave McCarty.
He was in the 78 car, right?
Yeah, well, Dave McCarty, if you want to go back, he worked with Darrell Waltrip's Bush team forever.
Okay.
And he came over, and my dad ended up buying Darrell Waltrip's team.
What was your injury at Texas?
A head injury.
Yeah.
I
thought that you had a couple.
Yeah.
You won't see this
what was your name again?
Back then, head injuries were different.
Yes, they were.
You know, we looked at them differently, and you probably just. How come you had to stop? Like, was the injury and like you couldn't function? And
so here's how that happened. We didn't make the race at Daytona, and I was very bummed out about that. It's one of the first times I'd ever experienced that, and that creates a hunger and a drive, right? And so we're going to run a limited schedule that year, and I go to Texas, and they had some water seepage
Texas
over there.
Was awful at that time.
Yeah, it was super fast. And I remember I was in the top 10 in practice, which, that was not very common for me. You started calling me right around because I've never pushed it in practice, And I
forgot that.
I had a bad habit of that because I never had a backup car. I never wanted to wreck one in practice. And so we're out there in practice, and we're in the top 10, and they're like, what can we do to make your car better? I was like, it's super loose, but I think if I hold it wide open, it'll be all right.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I woke up in a helicopter going to Parkland, and so I sat out a week, and then Dr. Petty, remember him? Mm-hmm. They made me go see him, and he did a physical, and I went to Hickory, and my throttle stuck at Hickory.
Goodness.
And I hit the wall really hard.
Yeah.
And
was that like weeks later? Or?
Yeah, like a week later.
Oh,
and
no,
then whatever it was.
Two big ones back to back.
Yeah, he's like, all right.
You went to Hickory is in a race, or were you testing because of your injury to try to see if you were okay? It was a race.
Yeah, like you said back then, you're just like, oh yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's crazy. So what strikes me is that you guys both remember races where y'all were racing together, and that South Boston's an interesting thing. All right, so do y'all have any stories of literally racing each other on track, competing for wins, whatever, getting together, anything like that?
No. Like getting into each other?
Yeah.
No.
Nothing? I think we have.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll tell that, and then let's step back to South Boston because that's a good story.
Okay.
We were at California Speedway. I qualified really good and was running really horribly. And I had a really tight race car, and Dale Jr.'s leading the race. And we're buddies, man. And we hang out all the time. That's my bud. If I can't win, that's who I want to win. And so I'm running around, and you're fighting for everything you have. You're fighting for the next opportunity every single lap. And I see them coming. They're about to lap me, and I cannot go a lap down. And so I'm holding him up. I'm so tight. I can't hardly drive this thing. Dale Jr.'s leading the race, and I cut in front of him, and instead of him wrecking me, he spins out. And I was like, ooh, that's not going to be good.
Oh.
And I was like, well, there goes, I guess we're not going to be buddies anymore. And then, so after the race, I was kind of expecting it, Here comes Dale Jr., he walks up. He goes, hey, man, what the heck was that all about? I said, man, I was just fighting Sam on the lead lap. That was really stupid. I did not mean to do that. I'm so sorry. He goes, all right, man, don't worry about it. I'll see you at home.
If it had been anybody else, that probably would have gone way differently. But, Dale Jr. just brushed it off. You do remember that now?
I do now.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't think that was the big. We didn't. I was thinking, had we ever had hanging together, getting out, going, you're dirty.
Yeah, we never got in a big argument or anything.
I was so loose, and he was so tight, and I couldn't get back. Back then, those Xfinity cars, you'd get on the inside of somebody, and you could not pass them. You couldn't use the throttle, and they could just stay out there, and he was doing that. I think I busted him.
Well, so what happened at South Boston?
South Boston was really cool. Freddie Query went with me there. I mean, he's a short track king, and we qualified pretty good. And, I'm new. I'm really new at this, and I'm trying to figure it all out. And in that world, and so we get to running in, and it starts to lay out, and Dale Jr.'s leading, Jeff Green second, and we ran like that probably for 100 or so laps, and we're nose to tail, all three of us, and we're checked out from fourth place, and I'm sitting here thinking, oh man, should I wreck them or should I not? And so we run like this forever and ever and ever. It's on a little short track like that, there's 9 million cautions, so it was just one of those races where you really playing out in my head, can I do the right thing? And I kept thinking, Jeff Green is about to lift him up, and I kept setting myself up to try to be in that place. But that was a real that race, being able to run with those two guys like that.
That was the moment.
That was a big moment for me because I was running with my dad's team, just trying to get by, and that was a really big opportunity for me.
I agree. I think the reason why Jeff didn't wreck me is because he had driven that 3 car just a couple years before that and had so much respect for Tony and Tony Jr. Tony Uri. That saved me that day because I was slow at the end of that race.
You were wheeling it though. It was pretty awesome. It was a fun thing to watch.
Yeah. So let's talk about hunting.
All right.
So I'm still sort of a novice hunter.
Yeah, I got a picture here.
Oh, okay.
It'll help us get our mind right.
All right.
With that.
Let's see what kind of experience here.
Oh no.
Here's Dale Jr. Pheasant hunt.
Oh wow, look at this.
And this
You guys
is
are-
the most epic hairdo I've ever seen.
Special when he's facing a righty on the mound.
Now, I've seen some mullets in my time. I mean, this is close to Billy Ray Cyrus right here.
It's better than Billy Ray Cyrus.
I mean, this is right here. And talk about a rack. I'm telling you what, this is a big one. Now, this is the one you.
What car is that?
What car is it?
Comes.
Take a look.
Chevy truck back there.
Oh, it's a
That's 3 strikeouts.
This is back in the day.
So that deer. Where do we shoot this? That's one
That's at
South
Franco Hills.
South Carolina.
Average in the box.
I mean, that was good, man.
Yeah.
I thought that was awesome.
Yeah.
Shot that deer by yourself.
Just posing with the head. We done detached it.
Yeah.
That's how far we go back.
There's a strike.
Let's see
good.
the. All right. So
Here you go. Look at this.
that's Remington hunt.
That's right.
So
He's gone.
we had a Remington deal.
Wins the battle. Sweet
His dad
pitch to
on
get
the
the K.
Left, Remington rep on the right.
Phil Murdoch.
Phil
Yep,
Murdoch.
That's who that
right.
is. Yep.
And what was it? Kremlin?
Yeah, Primlin. The
Kremlin.
funniest thing that happened that day is we went up there to go on a pheasant hunt, and Big E thought it would be appropriate, and which was very wise, to separate us two. So we've been known for getting in trouble.
I am so pissed off because we went to 2 different fields.
Oh yeah.
Because I was like,
Throw it deep
Dad
to
was
the
like,
plate.
this is an appearance.
This guy isn't great.
You're
Okay,
going,
He's
you're,
ready.
with the
you're
Remington.
going
He does
on
art.
this hunt.
Yeah.
Get your ass up and be ready.
Early in the morning.
Yeah. And I was like, hey, can Hank go? I'd love it if this would be fun for me. If Hank goes, I wasn't into this. I
Right.
didn't like to hunt.
Curveball
And
strike
I
on
certainly
the
wasn't getting up in the
outside
morning and going, hunting. But he's like, yeah, he can go. That'd be great. And we get there, and they're like,
edge. 3 pitches.
all right, Hank, you're going with them. Junior, you're going with them. And I'm like, wait a minute.
That's not the deal.
So
He got to go with Dad.
I was with,
I wanted to hang out with Dad and Hank Jr. And their 2 asses are going to a different field.
so
I got to hang around these Remington guys.
so we get up on this hill and we meet Dale Jr. and them, and Dale Jr.'s at the bottom of the hill. We're kind of standing up a hill, and the rule is you don't ever shoot around another person,
Right.
obviously for safety reasons. And this bird, for whatever, we're sitting there talking, this bird jumps up and he flies right in between us, and Big E goes, no, like this, and he gets about 10 feet over his head.
He
Dale Jr.
reaches
goes,
with a single.
smokes him, and all these feathers are coming down over Big E, and he's about to get mad. He goes, Dale Jr. goes, yes, I finally got one. And I could not stop laughing, which got me in trouble. And I didn't even do anything wrong. I was just laughing.
Oh man, that is hysterical.
1 ball,
Don't shoot it.
1 strike.
Kaboom! Yeah!
Out there celebrating. Pretty funny.
Oh my goodness, that is hysterical.
The idea of the feathers falling around Dad is he's turning beet red
Oh, yeah.
in anger.
Oh man,
ready
that
to
is
choke us
hysterical. So you guys hunted. I mean, so like, I would assume that.
Oh, there's an.
Go ahead.
I just want this podcast be damned. I just want to tell you this. We used to go hunting at a place
This guy
that he
could
owned
use
in
some
South
more time
Carolina.
in the batting cage.
And so you've seen Stroker Ace, the movie.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's right.
The guy that made the jewelry out of birds
Right at the third
Yeah.
in the movie. He's real, and he really made bird.
And that's where you
Jewelry.
killed that deer.
And
On
that's-
his property.
On his property, I killed that deer. And Hank, so I'm going hunting with Hank. What year was this? I drove up there in my truck.
89, 90.
I drove to your property in my truck. So, yeah. So,
Yeah. The same
Still
one
in
you
high
flipped
school.
end over end
yes.
and had me come see it because you thought it was so awesome.
Hell
yeah, I
yeah.
remember that.
Wow.
So I get there and he's like, "Hey, I got this guy. He wants to give you some jewelry." And I'm like, "I hate jewelry, but yeah, whatever." He's like, "No," and he's giggling, and I'm thinking this is some kind of joke. I'm gonna, Hank Jr.'s got some strange sense of humor, and I'm just gonna have to play along with this because I'm his
Just off
guest
the
on his
plate,
hunt
1-0.
land, and
All this guy's gotta do
He's
is hit the
damn
ball
bound and
marginally
determined
deep,
for
makes
me
you
to meet
score
this
around
guy.
third easily.
well, it ain't no joke. It turns out the guy really does make jewelry out of birds,
1 strike.
and it's the guy from
Stroker Ace.
Stroker Ace.
Yeah.
That,
I'm like, "Hey, Junior, do you know who this is?"
I
He's
mean-
like, "Yeah." I'm like, well, damn, why didn't you just say that?
Right.
I've been over there. I've been first out the killing door of the truck.
That's hilarious.
With a swing and a miss.
You,
Strike 3.
yeah, you come across some interesting characters in this line of business, don't you? Both of you do. So, okay. So,
Yes,
Am I
you do.
leaving anything out?
No,
The bases are loaded
that guy
with
was.
2 men out.
He was a pretty funny
That
guy.
one's
You know.
headed for the
He was the guy
stands,
that
and
drove the old car and
outta
was
here.
running from the cops down the dirt road at
Yeah,
the beginning of stroke
in the
race.
movie.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
Yeah.
Good dude.
He gets
I
a
couldn't
great
believe
pitch. He
it.
can
Yeah.
drive. He clears the bases with that.
all right, let's take a break from
surrounding.
this conversation to tell you about a partner that has us doing our best in every season. Because it's fall, you know, it's football time. It means flannel shirts, backyard fires, unless it's not cool enough for you to do a backyard fire. The leaves are falling. Dinner's drinking his pumpkin spice latte. It's also an important time for your lawn, Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Well, it seemed that Scott's seems to agree that fall is the time for backyard fires, not spring or summertime.
It would seem so.
Because those that was never mentioned in any of the
In
summertime
the summer
or
ones?
spring ads.
Get
just
ready
might-
for that backyard fire
Just
this
want to
summer.
say, just want to point that out.
All right,
Thank
all
you,
right.
Scotts, for having my back. Summer took a toll on our lawns. The wear and tear, the thin, weak
Going
grass,
into the
especially
bottom
at
of the
Mike
fourth, the score is
and
6-0.
Matthew's yard, because they're tramping around those fires all summer long.
Johnny Damon.
Our kids caused a lot of wear and tear on our lawns. And I don't have one. Especially this past summer,
For a week or two, that you can
which
say
I just
that.
mentioned. Our lawns became playgrounds, a campground, a lot of different things that caused some damage
Taken for a
here
ball.
and there. Think about it. Your lawn became the water park for the neighborhood. Slip and slides, blow up kiddie pools. Those things lay out there and kill the grass.
You
get
just put up-
lazy.
you just put up a trampoline, I saw.
I did.
Yeah, that'll tear up
Fastball
the grass.
misses outside.
Well, anyways, everybody's yard got tore all to hell. Mike destroyed his lawn driving all over it
Sharply to
constantly.
right for a base hit.
What are you doing that for?
Good start to
Gotta
the
get
inning.
one going,
Leadoff single.
Well, we have a solution to even fix that buffoonery. You can repair your lawn this fall with
Swings
Scott's
and
Turf
misses.
Builder. Rejuvenate your lawn to keep the fun going well into the fall season. Fall is the perfect time to feed and seed
The ball
with
is
Scott's
pulled
Turf
to the
Builder
right side.
because the soil is still warm from the summer,
He's on first
but
with
the
a
air is
base
cool.
hit.
All right, the mix of temperatures, warm soil, cool air is what your lawn loves, and it needs that seed of Scott's Turf Builder.
Stepping in,
Trust us
Miguel
on this one.
Cabrera.
If you don't trust us, trust Scott. They have a no-quibble money-back guarantee that states if you're not satisfied, you're going to get your money back.
0-1.
Scott's, it's good out here.
He goes out to right.
What other hunts have y'all gone on
Makes the
together?
catch to record
Well,
the out.
I've got a
The runner
funny story
advanced to
that I didn't
third
get
on
to
the
go
fly
on, but
ball.
this is pretty funny. So Dale Jr. calls me. He's like, "Hey man, I've got this land up in Ohio, and got these big deer on it." He's like, sends me a picture of this giant deer, without an invite. But anyway,
Oh, you were just bragging about the land. You weren't
Well,
sending
I
Hank
wanted him to know that I was starting to lean back into it.
into hunting.
it was cool, and I was all excited.
I wanted
Yeah.
to,
And he
I
calls
wanted to
me.
spend time with him.
He's whispering. He's like, "Hey man, you're not gonna believe what just happened." I was like, "What?" He's like, "I'm sitting up in a shooting house and a giant buck comes out," and he spooked off. I was like, "Well, really? What happened?" He goes, "Well, when I opened the window, he took off." He's supposed to have the windows open already. With a bow and arrow, man.
Oh man, that's hysterical.
Pretty awesome.
That's hysterical when I open the window. Yeah, that'll do it. That'll do it.
Yeah, that didn't work out too good.
I was a little surprised when we called you. I assumed you guys would be hunting. You know, we're in the middle of bow season right now, at least in
Yeah.
North Carolina. So are you hunting right now?
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't probably hunt as much as I did. Kind of took a step back a little bit from the hunting show. I mean, just the way that the whole world works. I've run a production company for about 10 years, and now I'm working for a camp up in the mountains of North Carolina, over in Andrews, North Carolina, called Snowbird Wilderness Outfitters, and I spent a lot of time doing that. But my son, Boone, he's really into archery. So both Boone and Cade shoot in this league called S3DA. And so that's like, they have the deer target set up out on the range, and they walk around shooting. So Boone's already shot 2 deer with his bow this year. He's 13 years old. So I'm taking them, I'm hauling them around and building new stories.
Build new stories.
I got to tell you, so you have a big family. You're a big family guy.
Yeah.
And you, and it's amazing that Boone is 13 years old, by the way. Boy, does time fly.
Yeah.
So Dale Jr. happens upon this little column that he wrote for NASCAR.com. Do you want me to read it, or do you want to read it?
It's up to you. I can't remember what it says. All I do remember is, so let's
Set it up.
So back in 2000, I was a rookie in Xfinity in the Cup Series, and I was wanting to wanted to try to write, and I enjoyed writing and just wanted to do it, try it, and get better at it. So my PR guy, Jay Gersh, said, let's write some columns. And so I wrote a series of about a dozen columns, one about my dad and one about various things. And I wrote one about you, and I called you. I was driving down I-77 going somewhere, and I said, hey, man. You're like, what? I was like, I wrote this article about you, and I'm going to put it on NASCAR.com. I just wanted to tell you about that before you don't read it and go, or somebody send it to you and you don't get weirded out.
It seemed that there was an occasion for it. Now, first of all, do you remember this at all?
I do not.
Okay. It seems that the occasion was you were about to get married. And that's my point, is that you're a family guy. Well, this is apparently Genesis 1-1 of Hank Parker Jr., right? All right, so here it is.
Here we go.
This is by Dale Earnhardt Jr. We ought to get some some music for this.
I'm sure they'll put some on.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. Yo, it's that time again to get a dose of my column. Better late than never, they say. Well, it's like Hemingway. All right.
Yo. You know when it starts out with
believe it or not, I had written a few columns for this month and canned them all. I decided to skip over the latest controversial topics like restrictor plates to tell you a thing or two about a buddy of mine. You all know him? It's Hank Parker Jr. Around here, we call him all sorts of things, some that can't be printed. First off, Hank and I have been friends for years, way before he ever got the nerve to drive race cars. Second, he's probably one of the most impressionable personalities in the sport. It's nice. Yeah. Wow. I met Hank on a hunting trip with my father. My father hunted with Hank Sr. quite often in those days, and me and Hank met on a few of those trips. For a few years, we would see each other, but it was a while before we got to be good friends. Hank and I had, and still do have, different outlooks on life. That's interesting. Yeah. We'll get back to that in a second. I can't say that I could explain either one of them, but I know they are not two in the same. Hank was really into the outdoors. I, on the other hand, could take it or leave it. That's true. I actually was better friends with his two brothers, Bill and Ben. Me and those two were getting into trouble on the weekends while Hank was off with his girlfriend. Write a note down. We got to get back to that, too, because, I mean, this wasn't part of the story, as I recall. One day at the shop, my father tells me that Hank Sr. wants to buy my street stock for Lil Hank. Yeah, Lil, not Little Hank. Lil Hank.
That's my rapper name.
Yeah, I got you. Right, Lil Hank. This was good news because I always thought Hank was cool, and if he was gonna race, we might get to hang out more often. So we sold him the car, and it wasn't long before I was driving in the BGN series, and Hank was getting offers to join me there. In those days, I tried really hard to help him on the racetrack. I couldn't think of anyone else I would rather be banging doors with in my racing future than my buddy Hank. I always thought he was a great driver with in-depth knowledge and unlimited ability. Before long, me and Hank were swapping setups at the track and club hopping during the week.
Oh, boy.
We got to write a note. We got to ask about the club hopping.
in trouble on it.
We spent the better part of 2 years doing that. 2 years of club hopping, Hank? Is that what y'all were doing?
My name was
Lil Hank. Yeah. Were you the DJ? Did you have a job at the club that night, Lil Hank? No. Okay. We spent the better part of 2 years doing that, 1 week after the next. When I threw a bash at the house, Hank was the life of the party. When we went to the clubs, no one had a better time than Lil Hank. We spent a lot of time racing on computers, critiquing our driving skills and patience. Anytime we had a career decision to make, most of the time, he would call me for some advice. He only took it half the time. But what the hell do I know? Dale Jr. qualifies that.
Yeah.
Last year, me and him, along with a few others, had the most fun on Halloween. Hank took us up to an old haunted hotel. Seemed like it was over 100 years old. It freaked us out pretty good. We did a little bird hunting that winter as well. Those were the times, I tell you. Well, a lot's changed, as it always does. Old Hank is getting married. It's really no surprise to me. I joke with him all the time about it happening soon. I tried my hardest to make him feel like a deserter.
You did a good job of that. You did a really good job of that.
A deserter, he said. To be honest, though, this girl's one hell of a catch. Almost like a female version of Hank. Weird but true.
Not my cousin.
Right. Yeah, so close to Hank, you'd think they were related. No. Even though we still look at the world around us in a different way, me and Hank still find time to chill out together, albeit not as often as before. Hank Jr.'s always been a workhorse, but he still calls after every win. I get a lot of credit for being real. Well, this guy takes the cake. Congratulations on finding your bride, Hank, and thank you for being my friend. Still single and loving it, Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Not anymore.
Isn't that funny? Okay, where do we start?
I think we got to go to the trouble, right?
Well, let's go to the trouble because I mean Dale Jr.'s conflicted. We got deserter Hank. I mean you're leaving your wingman apparently.
Yeah. That. Yeah.
Did y'all really get into trouble? I mean,
Well, I will say this: he mentioned it in there. He hung out with my brothers more, and they got in a lot more trouble than I did.
I've always heard that Catfish was, quite the hellraiser. Is that true?
He's pretty crazy.
He's wild.
He's calmed down.
He's married. We've all calmed down.
Everybody's calmed way down. We
Yeah.
would oh Lord.
Come on, listen. It's the podcast.
Yeah.
What we got?
Well, it seemed for this story we it didn't feel right telling it without Catfish in the room, but or Ben. They were two great guys, and just as nice and friendly and easy to be around as Hank was, and Hank Jr. was more career-driven, more goal-oriented. He definitely put more work into his relationships with his wife, and so when I would come around, I'd be like, "Hey, man, let's go buy a bunch of eggs and go egg a bunch of cars or toilet paper somebody's house, or play mailbox baseball," and crazy stuff. And Ben and Bill would raise their hand, and Hank Jr. would be like, I got to stay home. I got to do this and that and other.
That's funny. I don't remember any of that.
Bull crap.
His memory's impeccable up until this point.
Now, that was when we were younger.
Yeah.
When I was just getting my license and just raising hell. But we got into going to, we'd drink together and always had a great time. And I knew that, hanging around Hank was always going to be good, clean, safe fun. Hank wasn't ever going to do anything questionable. I wasn't either. And we were going to be wild and wide open, but we was going to stay in our lane. And I always knew when we were going to hang out, it was just going to be fun. But one of the most impressive things about Hank, and we'll tell you anytime you come on this podcast before we put it out on the air, if anything in here you don't like, we'll take it out.
Yeah.
But one of the things about Hank that was most impressive was his ability to puke and rally. He was a puker. Rally.
A puker.
Now, not I have drank so much I'm nauseated and I probably should go to bed. But it just didn't set on his stomach right. I don't even know if you can explain it.
I can't. I can. I think I've learned a lot since then. But I can tell you this: I can remember most after all the short track races, I would puke my guts out for hours after races, and I just pretty weak stomach. It didn't slow me down. I kept on going.
Like we would have like 4 or 5 beers, and he'd go, "I need to throw up," and he'd walk out in the yard and literally bend over and projectile into the yard and turn around, walk back in, grab a beer.
Like nothing ever happened.
And we ain't even got a good buzz yet.
That's a champ.
And I'm like,
And here's the
damn, you good? He's like, I'm great.
No balls, 2 strikes.
Got better now.
I'm like, okay, buddy.
I will throw this in for disclaimer. Yes, that is all of that is very true. My life is a lot different now.
It is a lot
I'm
different.
super thankful for gray hair, maturity, and God's grace. I can tell you that. But that is that was they like that. They would wait for that. Like, when's it gonna happen?
Oh,
Is it gonna happen?
what was Dale Jr. like to hang out with?
Just like he is right now. I'm not sure he's grown up and matured.
Oh,
I'm
That's
kidding.
I don't believe that.
No, you just good. You know, just funny as all get out and have a good time. And, you know, it was always the same group of people. You know, there would be a lot of people sometimes, but there was always this core group, and it was always just. You know, there was a time there was always this serious Dale Jr. at the racetrack. You know, where he was like really focused, and then there's this completely funny, turn it off, mischievous, crazy Dale Jr. And that's what it was like off the track.
I mean, by now, gosh, Dale, you and I, we've been friends so long. I think I've heard about all the stories, but I don't. And I definitely know stories where you got in trouble with your dad, but I don't recall any serious trouble with your dad's on anything y'all did. I mean, maybe y'all kept the mailbox situation to yourselves.
If Daddy knew about that,
oh yeah,
it'd have been over. He'd have wore my ass out.
Yeah, you didn't play games with my dad either. And there was a time, man, like, you know, when you're talking like when you're 17, 18 years old and you're just young and dumb and doing stupid things. I was really trying to not lose the opportunity of driving that race car. So I think really I was a late bloomer as far as coming into being wild into my early 20s, and you know, kind of when I first came onto the scene of the Busch cars. But you know, it was a tough road to get there. You know, and so you kind of always trying to stay focused and get these race cars ready, and you know, you've got limited opportunity, and I kind of had a sight for that at that moment, but I kind of lost sight of it.
You know, I'm curious. Dale Jr. says that he never expected to get that ride at DEI in 98, right? Yeah, I mean, and they didn't even tell him until like about the time they were loading up, it seemed like. Were you shocked that he made it in 98 and then became a champion? I mean, because you were with him back to 16 years old. He was a bit of a late bloomer himself.
Yeah. Well, I will say this. I was super thankful when he got that opportunity because I felt like he was going to do a good job. And if you look from the flip side of that, the pressure that he was under, you know, that was a ton of pressure back then because you had an established team and you had these guys who were used to you're just a whole company that was used to winning, and so you put him in the seat, and he performed, and it was awesome, and it was a fun thing to be a competitor and watch him do that, because that was pretty impressive. That was a very impressive time to see him stand underneath that type of pressure and win. That was really cool.
One of the coolest things that I remember I really appreciate this. I don't know where it falls for you, but at one point in your career, a couple things hadn't gone the right way. Teams that you were working with were having some difficulties, and me and Teresa were starting up Chance too. Mm-hmm. And we had a couple open races. We were kind of at this right around the same time looking at Truex to come drive for us, but we had a few races open. And I was able to get you to come over there and drive that car for a couple races, and ended up getting some good runs. I remember being on the radio with you at Kansas and giving you a hard time.
That was awesome.
Yeah, but I felt like that that was an opportunity for you to remind people, I think, because you had done already showcased your talent or shown your potential and who you could be in your own car in the Xfinity Series, and you won a couple of Xfinity races for CC and those guys. But then it was like people needed, it was a great opportunity to remind people, like, look, hey, I'm a guy that can do this, and I think that you got the chance to showcase that in that car, and ended up kind of presenting some new opportunities to you.
Yeah, I'll be forever grateful for that opportunity. It was a very pivotal time in my life right there. And so that was a really cool opportunity to be able to drive a car that good. And I remember going out to practice, I think the first time in Atlanta. I think Bono was the crew chief, and I asked him, like, is this thing legal? Y'all cheating? That's awesome. But they were good cars. I had a good time. And you know what? You look back, and it's you know, when you get older, you're able to kind of view some things in a different perspective. And you look at the way that racing and just sports work, it's so much about timing. And so you can be a great driver. You can have opportunity, but it all has to come together at the right time. And you see guys, one of the guys who I felt like really took a huge advantage and was able to really showcase just extreme talent was Matt Kenseth, the way he came into the sport with Robbie Reiser and those guys. And so I was just at a different place. And, if I could go back, I'd do a lot of things different. But, you give it your best. And you look back at it now and just like the timing I had developed a little bit of some bad habits from, not having exactly what I needed at the very beginning. But at the same time, man, I got to drive race cars. And I got to do something I dreamed of doing. I got to do something I love. And I got to experience victory. So, man, I look back on it with just good memories. And, Kansas, the funny thing, you talk about my stomach, at Kansas, I remember I was so sick before the race. And I was feeling so rough. And I went to the infield care center, and they're like, we're going to give you a GI cocktail. And they gave me, like, some Pepto with aspirin and, like, I don't know if it was morphine or whatever it was in it, like what's that numbing stuff? They put Novocaine. They put Novocaine in that thing. I drank it. I felt like $1 million that whole race. Like, yes.
How many races did you run for Dale? It was like 2 or 3, right?
3.
Right.
And then I drove Clarence Brewer's car that year at Darlington.
So you finished 7th at Charlotte with Bono in the box. You finished 5th at Kansas in the fall, led some laps, finished 5th at Atlanta. Those are great runs. And that team was brand new. What I remember you in 2002, and so you guys both alluded that you were wanting to give him a break to showcase his talent. What happened in between 2002 and 2003?
Yeah, it's a good question. So there was some things going really good. So I was driving for CC Welliver, and GNC was my sponsor.
GNC,
I was driving a Dodge. I'm like the first guy to win a bush race in a Dodge. And I was doing a bunch of stuff with Ray Evernham. And so I was doing a lot of their testing. I drove a cup race at Rockingham for Evernham. And so I felt like GNC was kind of in my back pocket. We had a great relationship, and we were going to move forward. We were actually going to go to PPC, where Jeff Green had been driving. And PPC actually stands for Parker, Pollux, and Campbell. And that ended up, I was going to take GNC over there, and then we were going to run, try to make a run in their car for the championship and try to be competitive, however you want to state that, and then look at moving up into the Cup Series. And I was at Homestead, Florida. I was leading. I led some of that race, and it was the last race of the season, and come in at the end of the race, and GNC's like, the government has banned ephedra. We're out of racing completely. And they were sponsoring races. They sponsored the Daytona race. They sponsored all these different races. And so here it is, the very end of the season. They completely pull out. My team shuts down, and I'm stuck at the end of the year without a ride.
At the end of the year, no time to even plan another ride for 2003, right? So you were stuck. Wow.
And here's a funny story. Maybe I should probably, it would be better, but he can't defend himself. But Chip Ganassi offered me a job to drive that car. Remember that Jason Leffler drove the first year for Chip Ganassi? He offered me that ride. I can't remember which car it was. But anyway, he offered me a ride, and I was going to stay with GNC, and we felt like we were going to be really good. And we talked, and finally I was like, man, I'm just not going to do it. And he's like, son, are you crazy? Some people say I am. But it kind of all fell apart right there. It just fell apart.
Wait, you turned down you had the Ganassi ride. And
before I knew GNC was going to leave.
You turned it down because you had your plans set up, and then the plans unraveled right after the Homestead race.
Completely unraveled. Wow. And then I went back to him. He's like, yeah, you already told me no, forget it. It was a good life lesson.
Wow. And so when do you guys actually talk about doing the Chance 2 thing? I mean, and where were you in life? Where were you in your headspace at that point?
Yeah. I was I think my wife and I just had our first kid, and so life was looking good. Then it all unravels, and every phone conversation with Dale Jr. starts the exact same way, the kind of way he did earlier. Hey, man.
Yeah.
I want you to drive my car for me. Okay. All right, we'll come over to the shop.
That's all the details you need.
Yeah. Sounds good to me. So that's how we did it. It worked good.
So you got to race in the Truck Series a couple more years after that. You last start You filled in for Carl Edwards at Nashville in 2005. You got the pole for Roush in the number 60 car.
His third base hit of the game.
And then you didn't race anymore.
I didn't race anymore. I had a conversation with Jack Roush. It ended my career right there. So this is a fun story. I was doing some testing for Carl. He was back and forth, and I just wasn't sure where I was at. I was doing a lot of TV at that point in time, and not sure where it was going. But, back then it was kind of popular to do kind of these starting parks, and I just wasn't going to do it. And so I'm at the racetrack working on Carl's car, and Brad Parrott was the crew chief, and he said, "Hey man, we really want to try something, and we don't know if it'll work, but will you be willing to try it?" I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." So it was bump stop, and we went out there, and the car was bottoming out really, really bad. So they made a few adjustments, whatever it is they did, and I made like 2 more laps. I came out and said, "Put a car cover on it." Well, they all got really mad at me, except for everybody on the team except for Brad, because I was like 15th in practice. You don't do that in those cars. And I was like, just trust me. I'm telling you, this thing is awesome. And so when Carl gets there, he pretty much just laps the field and dominates this race. But it really had very little to do with what I had done. It was the fact that I was just willing to try what they were wanting to try. I mean, you can imagine the difference. It was new technology back then. Sure. And so after the race, Jack Roush and Carl are standing there, and Carl says, "Jack, you need to give him an opportunity. You need to give this guy a chance. I think he could do it." He looked at me, kind of looked me up and down, and said, "Yep, he's too old and got too many bad habits." And I said, "All right." And I sailed on down the road. I said, "I've given it my best shot. I've done all I can, and I'm not going to go drive for a car that I know I can't win in. If I'm going to blame somebody, I want to be able to blame myself." And it just was too late. I pushed it too far.
How old were you?
33, maybe 30, 33, 34 maybe.
Crazy.
So young.
Yeah. Jack has put a lot older farts in that car than 33. I mean, do we need to remind about Mark Martin or anybody else there? I mean,
well, those guys were established, and I get his point. I get what he was saying.
I know.
I picked up some habits of driving cars that were different than his, and hey, I get it.
Okay, so that's what sucked all the oxygen out of you to not pursue racing anymore. I mean, that
I don't know. It was just that that was the straw that kind of that unleashed the flood to go that direction. And then I started commentating races and started doing some stuff like that.
What'd you think about commentating?
I enjoyed it. The one thing is I'm a kind of high energy person, and I'm tuned into things, but I'm also a bit ADD. So by the end of the race, I'm kind of like,
Yeah.
all right.
don't put you on the 600, right? Is that what you're saying? How long did you do that for?
I'd say 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you missing driving?
A little bit, I wanted to, you have to make up your mind on what you're going to do and where you're going to be. And in my drive was, I want to have the opportunity to win, and I want to have the opportunity to be competitive. I don't want to just be there. I don't want to just go collect. Being a professional athlete, I'm not there to draw a paycheck. I'm there to swing for the fences and go for it. And if I can't do that, then I need to go. I know how to use a shovel. I know how to swing a hammer. I can go make a paycheck somewhere else. So this is a dream, and you better go for it while you got the chance.
Yeah. So you your life changed quite a bit since you quit driving.
Mm-hmm.
You've been married and you're having kids, but now you got a giant family.
Yeah.
Hey, Dale Jeter says that all the time.
Yeah. Well, I'm impressed.
Yeah. No,
it's an impressive responsibility.
Yes, it is.
So tell us about that.
For the Red Sox in the
it's after I got out of racing, kind of started doing some TV work and kind of got involved in doing some different things with my dad in the outdoor television programming. And you just turn around and got 3 or 4 kids, and it's like keep adding to them, and it's just been building up. And so over the last several years, my wife and I have been in the process of adopting a little girl from the country of Haiti, and after 6 years, we finally brought her home this March, and so that was awesome. So she's number 5 in the Parker clan, and she fits in real good, and they keep me hopping. And my boys, I was telling them I was coming to do this, and one of them told me, said, "I want to try racing go-karts. I was like, no, I think you'll be all right sticking to
didn't.
fishing and hunting.
You didn't.
Come on, you didn't.
You got to bring a go-kart over there.
Yeah, right.
That'll be bad.
Got a street stock to sell?
What's a day like in the Parker household?
It's pretty wild, you know. It's pretty wild. My 2 daughters are driving, so that's kind of crazy. I'm always trying to give them instruction on, you know, what that looks like, and they don't think I understand what boys in high school think and do, and I keep explaining it to them, and you know, threatening, you know, boys to come around, you know, my daughters, what that would look like for them. My boys are really into horses, and so they're constantly getting new horses and training horses and selling horses and playing on horses. They're really into horses and the outdoors. They love doing that. And so, you know, it's we live in a crazy time now, so kind of like trying to do school with them and do all the things that they enjoy to do outside of that.
You know, we talk so much about your dad. I mean, how's he doing? What is he into right now?
My dad's crazy. He's in Louisiana right now fishing. So every chance he gets, he's fishing, he's hunting, he's wide open. He has not let off the throttle. Literally, at all.
I'm gonna tell you something you don't know. I have told you before because you obviously you're a veteran of the Dirty Mill Media podcast host. You know, you and Terry were hosting Earnhardt Outdoors. But one time I told you this. In my time of racing, I've never been. I mean, we've met a lot of people. Celebrities come to every week. I'd never been starstruck. In 2002, when I saw Hank Parker Sr. walking through the garage, I literally was locking up. And you know why? Because my dad and I used to watch that fishing show, and we just were so into that theme song, Gone Fishing. And it was a thing that me and my dad connected to all the time, and we just loved it. And I remember growing up watching it. And so when I saw Hank, who's the friendliest guy, and I mean, like, I don't know what is in the water at the Parker household, man, but they're just so nice.
Yeah.
I've always just looked up to you and your family, and Hank. I just remember that in 2002. I was brand new in the sport, working for Finch, so trying to get my bearings and everything. But then when your dad walked in and then was just so nice, I just was like, man, I made it. This is it. It don't get better than this, you know, right here. Hank Sr. right here. But then I was obviously into your whole career, and you were so good that year in 2002. I mean, you were fast. But I've always thought a lot of your family. I then got to know Catfish through your hunting show, you know, the hunting show y'all were doing. I didn't know Catfish. And he also was driving for Rusty.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
And, you know, when RWI was doing its thing, and you guys as a family and hunting together, it was just so fun to watch. And you're good at it. And I was like, I'm like, man, the legend fisherman is also just whacking them out there in the woods.
My dad's always hunted. He used to tell people he would go fishing to make enough money to go hunting. So
that was always man, and he could do it. He could do it in the boat too.
Yeah,
boy.
He's got a talent. I mean, it's just incredible. I didn't get that. So when I go fishing with him, like, I don't quite understand what you're doing, but it seems to be working pretty good for you. But man, he's an awesome dad, and I've enjoyed, you know, the life lessons, and you know, it's pretty fun to just still hang out with him. I mean, he's still the same old guy, and we still go fishing, we still hang out, we still go hunting, and same old guy. And man, I'm blessed to have him as a dad, that's for sure.
And you got a production company.
I did. I do. I'm not as focused on that at this point in time. I've ran a production company where we produce most of our hunting television show, and we produce some other television shows. We produced Greg Zippodelli's Drop Zone show, and John Tate runs that now. And I did a lot of different work for production companies. Right now, my main focus and what I do is I work at this camp called Snowbird Wilderness Outfitters up in Andrews.
And tell us a little bit more about that, because I know you alluded to it earlier. But
It's a Christian camp that's primarily focused on junior high and high school students. It's a year-round camp. It's a high adventure recreation camp where we have all types of stuff from whitewater rafting to aerial parks, zip lines, all the fun stuff that kids like to do. But it's a ministry based, it's a gospel based ministry that my main responsibility is to try to get people to come to camp.
And how you doing with that? I mean, you've already. I want to go to camp. I mean, I don't know what's the age limit on that thing.
Yeah.
Is it going to be one of those situations where he's going to be Jack Roush? He's going to look at us and go, "Nope, too many bad habits, and you're too old."
No. We had a men's retreat last weekend where we had lots of guys up there, but it's going good. You know, we obviously have come through a summer where it's been crazy with all the stuff, COVID and all that, but you know, based on the rules for overnight camps, we were able to still operate at a reduced capacity, but we had a good year, and a lot of camps were shutting down, and we grit our teeth and pushed right on through and kept on going, man. Had a great summer, had a bunch of kids come through.
You work with a lot of charitable initiatives too as well. Any of those you want to speak about?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that I would say as far as like charities and things, there's we kind of bounce back and forth looking at different things, my wife and I. One of the things that got us on the track of adoption was a ministry called Back to Back, and we were visiting different places, and you know, I'm just super thankful for the work that they do for orphan care around the world, and to be able to go see different things and to have your mind shaped and changed by reality by going firsthand and seeing things have been something that I had no idea existed before I met those guys and started going to different places with them.
Did you go to Haiti? Is that what I mean? Had you gone to Haiti on a mission trip or anything like that? Because they've, that country's been ravaged.
Yeah, it's a crazy place. I mean, it's obsessed. You know, in a lot of aspects, it's a very sad place, but there's a lot of hope there too.
Sure.
I'd spent some time in Mexico. My family and I would go down to Mexico every year, and we'd go to a home where there was quite a few kids, and it's kind of hard to explain, but there was a kid that we kind of fell in love with down there, and he didn't have any extended family that would come visit him on holidays, and so we would kind of go down there and hang out and spend time with him, and we actually thought we would like to adopt that kid, and you know, just because he was in a pretty bad situation where he was at, and you know, it just didn't work out. And the really cool thing about it is his family found him, and we ended up taking him back home. So that was really cool. And so in that process, we're on the back side of this thinking, hey, we're a little crazy thinking about adopting a kid, but since we were thinking about it, let's just see where it leads. And you know, and my wife and I spent some time just praying about it and seeing where we felt like the Lord would lead us. And Haiti is a place that has seen a lot of destruction. There's a lot of need, and you know, there's a lot of things that you could go into when you start talking about orphan care and orphans around the world. There's some different views and some different ways of looking at things. But here's the one thing we did understand: there was a lot of need, and you know, we're in an opportunity and a position that in our life where we could invest in that, and so we started the process. It took us 6 years, and we finally got her home.
Wow, 6 years.
Crazy.
Yeah. Man, you are a special guy, and I've always felt like that, but you continue to do things in your life, and you continue to sort of march that path and do your own thing. And I've always just been really impressed by you, and I appreciate your friendship, and hope that one day we'll get to go hunting together and spend some real time.
Separate fields. I want to make sure y'all are apart.
I think it's about. I know we both got lives that keep us pretty dang busy.
Yeah.
But I think it's time for us to go off somewhere and do something where we can just hang out. But
I'm ready when you are.
You need to hang out with, the Maturdale Jr. I mean, I don't know. Do you have any experience in this? Because I mean, like, this guy's about to have his second kid. I know it ain't no Parker thing.
We haven't been on a trip in a decade.
It's been a long time.
Yeah,
it's been a very long time, and right back at you, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate the opportunity you gave me. I mean, all the way through my career, at any point, if I was struggling at the racetrack, I mean, I can remember there's times that you guys would take shocks and just bring shocks over and put them on my car.
Is that right?
Yeah. Dover.
Always helpful. I was like, I was not going to make the race at Dover, and Tony Jr. came over and put a set of shocks on my car, and I qualified like 7th.
Oh my God!
I was like, he's like telling me what his car's doing. I'm like, I know exactly what you need. I'm killing it in these shocks over here. You got to have these things. It's going to fix it.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
That
but
is